That's it, it's recording now. So I'll just formally start the meeting by welcoming everybody and saying thank you for coming along to our live event, and thank anybody else who comes in later. This session is there to talk about anything and everything about Hi Bernadette, to do with healing that you have any questions of, want to share anything. We've had some good discussions before. I've opened it up to members now, which makes it more interesting for us all. There's a training course that's running constantly for healing, and that was the way I started doing this session. But also, it's a great opportunity just to share anything that anybody's going through or has gone through. I was going to just talking as we started about, I think you just asked me how I felt and how I was. And of course, it's a silly question because once you start, you get, whoa. I actually, I mean, okay, but something that I noticed in the week that I suddenly had a big dip of energy. And I realized that there's a very fine line for me of how much work I can do before I start to feel this is a bit too much for me and I've got to draw back and go for another walk in the woods or do some gardening or have a large drink or something to just to bring out that balance back. And I was talking to William, who does well, I say mine, but he does heavy duty clearing of even demonic energies, and he does it all the time. That's his role in life. He's taken on that role. He works at a temple where he goes and he connects to a master. He has a process that means that he doesn't actually have to put his energy through this at all. But even so, when he's been doing a lot of very heavy work, he feels aches and pains in his body, and he starts to feel very tired. And I gave him a zap, and he said thank you, he felt a lot better. But he said it's always a matter of balance, of if he does too much, this is what happens. And he protects himself. I mean, it isn't just about protecting yourself. This is about making sure that you keep your life in balance. And it does occur that often you get people who do this therapy work, whatever, who end up burnt out. And we've just always got to make sure we don't do that. And it doesn't have to be a full-time healer to have this experience. It can also occur when you're giving too much of yourself. Now, I was just doing a talk about dependency. Somebody asked me to do a podcast on dependency because of a dependent mother. She's not too far away from me at the moment, and I have just finished that one, and quite interesting. I realized that it's very easy to fall into the situation when you're a giver to give just that bit too much. Then once you step over that line, you are then into sacrifice. And the one thing we don't want to do in this wonderful age of Aquarius and the divine feminine age and the self-responsibility age that we're in is to be sacrificial. I just want to share one other thing on that. A friend of mine is a complete giver. She's all her life, and I know why she does it, because of something that happened when she was in her childhood. She always feels that she has to please and always feels that she wants to go the extra line for everybody. And the problem with that is that she gets a lot of fulfillment out of it, for sure, but the downside is she does make everybody else feel guilty because we don't do as much as she does. And what's happened with her mother is that her mother, she did sort of taken it on herself that she has to carry her mother, and has done for about 20 years. The mother's just gone on to 99. And her sister got in touch with me and said, look, I've spoken to my friend, and she said, I feel that perhaps you could do something for me. She said, but I think the balance is wrong, that she's somehow got the wrong end of the stick, that she has to carry a mother. My mother, she says, doesn't really like it, but she says, I feel that it's keeping her on earth for some reason. That there's a sort of a codependency situation here. That mother, for whatever reason, maybe a contract. She said, I don't know. She said, I don't know much about this, but maybe you can help. That's keeping her mother alive, because mother was going down to 7 stone and she's suffering terribly. And Lynn is a beautiful woman, but she's always giving. Bless her, so much so. Anyway, the long and the short of it was, I did this work with her sister, and it came up. I found a contract that they had made, and I asked permission, and I released the contract. It was like a family contract too. I got another message that somebody else needed to come and see mother, and then it would all go. And anyway, the long and short of it is, mother passed away really peacefully after we cleared the contract. So sometimes it's contracts that make us feel that we have to do this, we have to do that. And it's always worth checking to see if you've got a client who says, you know, I feel compelled all the time to be doing this and doing this and doing this. Is there something that's wrong? Well, it could be a contract that was made in a previous lifetime that needs to be cleared. So it's always worth looking for those contracts when people are sacrificing themselves or going too much, going over the top to the point where they're making themselves sick, or where there's a complete, seemingly a complete mismatch in a relationship. Not always that, but it's worth checking. Anybody got to share on that? I'm opening up for anybody to make comments.
I can relate to that, because I was that person who, and the whole family was dependent on me, and I for so many years, I think for more than 20 years, I couldn't. And then in the end, I wondered why everybody prospered and I was left behind. But I worked so hard, and I didn't know that. I didn't realize that. So then when I had a session with Anne, we found out that there was in a past life, there was some black magic involved. So that had to be cleared. That only then that I could actually free myself, and then I could do things on my own, because otherwise I would be like a servant and fulfilling other people's aspirations and dreams, but then in the end I have very little for myself. So so that was me some time ago.
Yeah, and you've got on great strengths now. You've got lots of businesses of your own, haven't you? And you're getting married.
Yeah, and
getting married next year.
Yes, and to the point where I couldn't even have a relationship, because I just couldn't. And everything was tied up to the family. Not that I don't love them, but it leaves very little for myself. And something happened, and I was glad that I found the reason for it and found the solution for it as well. So right now I can actually do things on my own, and I feel a lot better. It's like having a newfound freedom for myself.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. I mean, I'm very close to her, as you do, and we work very closely together, and I've seen her completely blossom with this freedom. Yeah, I think contracts, and it was black magic involved in yours, which makes the contract harder to break. I think it's very hard to break your own contracts, but you can break your own contracts. And I broke one myself last year, really. I've always felt a strong drive that I had to do this work, and I always felt guilty if I got involved in doing anything else. So even if I took a day off at home and sat and read a book, I feel guilty. Oh, I ought to be doing a podcast. I ought to be doing this. I ought to be doing that. Developing the business or whatever, writing another book or what. You know, there's always something lurking there that I felt I ought to be doing. And I had some signs that I needed to change direction and stop, and I broke my ankle and I stopped for a while doing healing, but I carried on doing other things. I did writing a lot of articles and things then, and another book. And then the beginning of last year, I think this is one of the joys of, if I could say the joys of having a lockdown, was that it sort of gave me a bit more time because I didn't get on planes to go anywhere. And I just really thought hard about this driver that I had, which was pushing me. It was like it was a carrot dangling in front of me that I was chasing all the time, but also a sense of being a compulsion in me. And I decided it was time to find out exactly what it was. And I came to the conclusions and insights, or whatever you want to call it, that actually I had made a contract to God, that this was a promise I'd made, that I would spend this lifetime completely focused on healing and doing my work, which ironically I love to do. So why was it a burden? Why was it becoming a burden? And I realized that there were aspects of it I didn't particularly want to do. And then I said, well, don't do them then. This was the conversation. Well, don't do them. Oh, well, can I actually not? Yes, I can. I can do what I like. Actually, I can do what I like. And what do I like? It's what feels good from here. Well, why don't you only do what's good from here then? Well, that's a good idea, because that's our connection to the divine, whichever way you see God or divine, is the connecting point. So why not listen to what's there and just do that? Can I? And as I said it, I could feel it, and even as I'm saying it now, I can feel this sort of like, oh, really? Yes, really. And then contract with myself now to only do what makes me happy. And of course, surprise, surprise, the business, if you want to call it a business, or the work just sort of went mega. I've never been so busy in my life. Brenda can't get over the shock of seeing money in the bank account. She keeps saying, there's money in the bank account. Oh my God. Oh, that's a shock. And this amazing situation, yeah, that I've obviously broken that old contract, and I quite like the new one. Brenda loves it. And I'm working more, but actually I'm enjoying it more. I'm happier, you know, and I just loving what I'm doing again. Oh, just that subtle thing, really. I mean, it's not a big thing, but a contract can be a big thing. Isn't it? Siobhan.
Yeah, it's really interesting that you're talking about sacrifice, because that's the exact word that I've been ruminating on for weeks now, if not months. And you know, Anne, that my mum's not so well, so I've been caring for her for it's probably like about 4 months, and now she's in hospital. She's just due to come back. And what I was thinking about was that sort of unwritten expectation that other people have, that I should sacrifice myself, and it just seems a given that is the case. You know, I mean, I'm in the position to help, and I'm in the right place. I'm at home, but even that said, I think if I was elsewhere, the other side of the country, it still feels that unwritten thing of it's fine for you to sacrifice everything for this.
Expectation of you.
Yeah, and I've just been questioning why.
You should question.
and on top of that, exactly as you were saying, and since my mum's been in hospital and somebody else has had the responsibility of caring for her, my body has just started freaking out. I've got thought I'd broken my thumb, hand, arthritis, but I think it's also delayed shock, because I've been sort of holding it. But yeah, it's that thing of just it feels like something that everyone knows, but how, you know, it must be something that came before, because
But it also,
you know,
you have to ask yourself one thing. I've just written a podcast I'm going to record later on this, and one of the things I've brought up is that, you know, we know that we have free will, and every relationship that we're in, we have agreed to at some level. It's our choice. And there's a lovely, just business of choice, you know. I've just been reading a book by, is it Nick Raz or some Nick, whatever his name is. He wrote a great book, Create Your Own Life. And it's an old book, but somebody suggested I might like to have a look at it, because it's something that I'm relating to some other work I'm doing. Anyway, the thing he said, which really struck me, he talks about people who come to him and complain about the fact that they are put on too much weight and they want to lose weight and they're overweight. And he says, you know, it's all about choices, because he said, have you ever heard of anybody who accidentally put anything in their mouth, accidentally ate something? And I thought that's absolutely sums it up to me, that we never eat anything accidentally. We choose to put it in our mouth. And I think that flows truly into the subject we're talking about now. And for you, Siobhan, and I did put, you've got to accept that there's a compliancy there as well for yourself.
Well, I was just going to say, it links to the codependency, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You know, codependent relationships that we were talking about
exactly.
a while back. Yeah.
Which is why you talked about the podcast, which is why I did. And I think the one of the things you can look at is, well, you ask yourself the question like I did: why am I doing this? Why am I in a relationship with my work, which is something I love? Like, it could be a relationship with a person, same thing. And yet I'm feeling that it's not quite right. And what am I doing that's, you know, why am I making a sacrifice of myself?
Yeah, yeah,
and,
yeah.
And it turned out to me that it was a promise I'd made. Because once I did that promise, oh, it was a big relief. And I feel God going, thank God, and she ever thank you. Why did she? It took her a long time to realise that. A lesson for slow learning here.
And it's that relief, isn't it? That's the bottom line of the, you know.
You realise that. Even with my mum, you know, when I was looking after her, I still went overseas and did my work, and I went on holidays. And so she wasn't a huge burden on me, because I still allowed myself some freedom, because I knew that's what she would have wanted when she was in a stronger state. Yeah, so it does mean you have to sit and think hard about why you've allowed it to happen.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Anybody else want to put their 2 pence in on this one? I think if you're doing healing for other people, you could have a checklist almost that you ask them to go and check. Because I think you can do the things of clearing vows, clearing contracts, making sure there's no dark energies involved which have tied you together in any way. Obviously look for childhood situations where the pattern was already developed, where a dominating mother or father was making a child feel guilty if they didn't follow their will and please them, and making sure their whole life was about pleasing them. If it's gone on in childhood, there's a very good chance it will be going on for the rest of their life. So there's a sort of programming aspect, contracts, programming, vows. As I say, the black magic with Azita. Guilt is another big one. That's a good question to check. Does the person suffer guilt in any way? And is this a normal guilt with mum and dad? Because you always have a little bit of that anyway. You always sense that it's your duty. But is it big? And then, of course, the next question is self-esteem and self-value. You know, do you value yourself less than the person that you're running around after? And I think, Azita, that was part of your issue, that you probably felt they were more important than you were.
Yeah, because at the end, in the end, you find that you're not worthy, and when you feel that way, good things don't come to you, and you always have to give up whatever that you have. I find that, you know, I have to give up every single thing, and even when I was earning so much money, it disappeared. I had to give it away. There was always someone who needs something, and in the end, you have very little. So and it's just endless of suffering, really.
Yeah.
But once you've healed yourself, then you need to consciously wanting to change and change your patterns of behavior. And I think that it's a lot. It's not going to be very easy, but you know, you have to start with the first step.
Yeah.
And you know, little baby steps.
Yes.
Yeah. So that helps you to sort of grow and have a life of your own. You don't have to live according to what others say or how they think at all.
No.
At all. No.
Not at all. And of course, the irony of it is, the minute you start to speak up and say what you want, that's when respect comes from other people, and they stop that behaviour drops. I know the only time that my husband was ever disrespectful to me was when we first moved to Malaysia, and I was listening to his boss's wife. She wanted me to do this, she wanted me to do that, and she was making me see, I thought I was being made to do things that I didn't want to do. And one day she said, "Why are you doing all this?" I said, "Well, she's your boss's wife and she wants me to do it, so that's why I'm doing it." He said, "You do what you want to do." Big freedom again. I said, "Right, that's the end of that. I do not want to go anywhere that she's telling me I've got to go to fashion lunches and all that rubbish," which was the last thing on earth I wanted to do. So yeah, that was a good lesson for me. And he was being not abusive, but he was treating me in the same respect as he did. As soon as I stepped away from that pattern of behavior of doing what somebody else wanted me to do and what I wanted to do, I was really busy. I was on charity things and running a magazine and all sorts of stuff. I wanted to do that. It wasn't a matter about how much hard work there is involved, and it doesn't matter. It's not to do with the level of energy you're putting into something. It's all about the level of feeling that it's something you choose to do.
Exactly.
And if you can get your client to start to look at themselves through a prism of, is this what you really want, or are you doing this because somebody else wants to? I mean, change the lens. Start to look at yourself and your life and what you're doing through a different lens. Yeah.
And suddenly you have to think about.
Yeah, they have to do the work. You did the work, Azita.
Yes. Yeah. I didn't do it for too long.
Wow, you got there. That's the main thing. Yeah. Okay.
I have something similar, and in the relationship with my mom. At the time, I didn't realize it was a contract. I just took it as a responsibility that I need to take upon me the moment my father died. He died suddenly, and he was the leader of the family, and my mom was left in a way on her own, abandoned, because my brother and I were living in Spain at the time. So shortly after my father died, I had a dream in which her and I were looking into a mirror, and she put a scarf on my head, and my aunt, her sister, called me her name. So I was wearing my mom's name. And from that moment on, for about 7 years, mom was my responsibility. I was in Spain, but constantly sending money, sending clothes, sending all sorts of things, coming home every holiday, every year on holiday, just to make sure she's okay, and taking her on different, wherever she wanted to go, until one point when I just realized that I am not moving forward. It was like a realization all of a sudden, and I started to look for answers. I started to look for ways of how can I free myself. And I found someone in Romania at the time, in one of my holidays. I found a lady that helped me. At the time, we called it cutting cords. And she guided me through a meditation. And in that meditation, I saw myself tied to my mom with a humongous rope around my waist and her waist. And of course, through that meditation, with kindness and love and everything, we untied that rope, and I could arrange her and everyone that I saw at that time in the right position, in the right place. And the funny thing is, the next day, my mom called me desperate. It was 9 or 10 a.m. in the morning, and she said, I had a dream about you, and I needed to talk to you. I dreamt that you died, and I was at your feet. You were in a coffin. I was crying at your feet, but somehow I knew you were okay, and I knew I had to let you go. And from that moment on, my relationship with my mom completely transformed. She is back in Romania. I left Romania many years ago, but she wasn't my responsibility from that moment on. She's doing her own life, her own thing. She's managing everything perfectly, and we have no connection, toxic connection, so to speak.
Oh, that's a brilliant story. That's a brilliant story, and I can see that rope, and I can sense that rope. We do a lot of cutting cords in the healing we do, and it's such a powerful process. But of course, you have to be ready. You do 7 years of penance, I guess, of some kind. Of course, there is the karma too. That's the other thing I always say. You have to clear the karma, because it could be that is a penance in some way to sort of that you put yourself through. So yeah, but cutting the cords, and of course these hooks that people put in you, they can be cleared if you want to clear them. And so you need boundaries, and you need to be able to clear the hooks. And I've just written in my thing, is it on a daily basis, set your intention to keep within your boundaries. i.e. number of times you're going to visit, or are you going to take the blame, or are you going to be bullied or manipulated? And release the hooks that she puts into you. The energy hooks that are created are the key to setting yourself free. Do this by swooping your back and shoulders. And just doing that in itself makes you feel lighter. You know, that I did a healing for somebody the other day, and I could see this huge sack on her back, and it was full of people. Full of people, and she was carting them around, and I said, well, you're going to move forward. She wanted to move forward, and this is why she was booking the session. I said, you're going to have to put them all down. I said, apart from anything else, they're losing the ability to walk, like your mom had lost the ability to be self-sufficient because you were doing it for her. So in a way, it's detrimental to the other person as well when we make ourselves like this. So that's something to bear in mind, Siobhan, that think of it, twist that around a bit and think, I'm doing my mum a favour by cutting the cords. And stepping back?
Yeah, well, I just got a massive yes when you said about somebody not being able to walk, because she literally has not been able to walk with having her hip replacement. Yeah, yeah, we sort of know it, don't we? And yes, it's just getting to the nitty gritty of acknowledging it and doing something about it. And I just wanted to ask you, when you're doing the work for other people, so would you have a list there, and are you at a kind of when you're clearing, are you clearing each thing individually? You know, I see you sweeping, etc., but you just kind of looking at each, you know, you've got the contracts, childhood situations, etc. Are you just sort of doing a visual tick for yourself, and then
A bit of both. What I do is, in a session, I always have a pad, and on my pad, I sort of have, it is a bit like a checklist. And if it was a case like this, knowing that the background of causes for that particular situation, which it just comes with a bit of experience, and also like the healing that we do, I would just start asking questions relating to those things, and I would put down my own check, contracts, vows, and I would write down maybe those 6 things on my, and I put circles around them, and that energetically connects. And sometimes when I write that down like vows, I get a little jolt, I get a little schism come through. And I mean, the client's not going to know whether they made a contract. It's a past life thing. Is this a past life issue? Is this karma? And I'm asking myself that question, and I do the sort of energy check. Is this karma? Is this, yes, it could be karma. And if I get a yes or a no, it could be a vow that you've made. I'm making the energy connection.
Yeah.
But what I see, if it looks like very much there is, oh my God, yes, and the big bush goes down my back as well. So there's somebody here with a vow that needs to be cleared. By the way, one of you has got a vow to your mother or father, or I think it's mother or father, probably you, Siobhan.
It's father.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And,
it's what I've been thinking about. Yeah.
That's it. So that needs to be cleared. And then I just energetically go through that checklist and see which one resonates. And if I'm not sure, I just clear it anyway. So
yes.
Yeah, and then I go through it. What I do is I go through that conversation part of the healing session, and I'm anything they say that resonates with something, and they feed. You know, sometimes if you say, "What about guilt?" then suddenly, although they might not have mentioned it, suddenly the whole thing about guilt might come out, and why they might feel guilty, and so that gives you the story behind it. But you still got the word guilt, karma, circle it, and that means when I get to the end of the conversation part, which it balances out in a healing session of an hour, that the conversation is about 45 minutes or 40 minutes, and the healing itself only takes about 20. Of course, the healing's going on all the time anyway, and I always do a balancing at the beginning, but the energies are flowing. But for the deeper stuff, where I sort of don't go necessarily into deep trance, but I definitely go into an altered state, and that's when I use this checklist, because I'm just making sure I cover everything, and then I see past life, and then I'll probably see the past life, and that gives me more clues, and then I'll hear the past life, because by healing the past life, I'm healing that part of the soul that has still got that problem, and then I'll bring that soul part in and ask them to embrace it. And this works very well for self-esteem. Anything where there's self-esteem issues that come from a past life, being persecuted, being dominated, being abused, and bring that in, and I do the healing, and then I ask the client to take that person, who they were in that past, to love them. And of course that is self-love. So it's a powerful part of the process, that to bring some imagery, if it's maybe if it's abuse as a child, definitely that works extremely well, and it works very well for past life situations too, to bring that aspect through. Say, there you are, this is when you were a servant girl being beaten by your mother in that lifetime or whatever, but it doesn't matter if it was mother or not, the fact that you were allowing yourself to be beaten and dominated in that lifetime, you're going to heal. We're going to heal her now, and we bring her back. You're going to love her. We're going to see her standing up strong now. And I'd say, we're just going to change it a bit, because now she's standing up and she's not allowing herself to be beaten. She's turning around and she's facing the master or whatever it is, and feel and sense that strength flowing through her. Now bring her as that, like that, into you, and love her. And I can feel a big whoosh of energy as that happens. It's really, that's pure spiritual healing, really. I mean, we're talking spirit here. And I don't know how it always works, but it does.
Yeah, it's sort of spirit leading your intuition as to getting the ticks on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there is a process, but it doesn't drive the healing session.
Yeah.
It's a guide rather than.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think this is the reason for somebody's problem, because of past experience, and then as I'm unfolding it, it's something completely different.
Yeah.
So keep your mind open.
Being open. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks.
No problem. Good. Anybody else got anything they want to share on this?
And on that, hello. Hello.
Steve.
Hi, Steve. We haven't
Steve.
There we are.
Can hear you, Steve. Yeah.
Got my green hay. Oh, there it is.
Hi, Steve.
Hello, everybody. Hello.
Hi.
Hello, Steve.
I think what was interesting, because I'm interested in patterns. We use that about with books and things or of all kinds, and I think I think also I feel that is part of what's holds us back, as these patterns. But we've got this abundance of universal layers which can go beyond these patterns. But it's first thing is recognizing them. But most of us are walking around in our lives that we're like a puppet on a string. Something happens and we get pulled that way and pulled that way, and we're getting all, well, disjointed or in a muddle, whatever. But I think what I'm interested is like with karma, because there's nothing wrong with karma. It's how we respond or react with it, rather than things happen. I mean, to give an example, yesterday I had my second vaccine, so that's done. But last night, I woke up, I'm all hot and aching. I thought, what's going on here? And I didn't sleep properly. I thought, oh well, I've got the side effects. But I just went with it. I got up this morning, I hardly slept, but I got up and I've got myself going, I'm okay. So the point I'm getting is going with the flow, recognising it, rather than thinking, oh God, worries me, I'm going to be like flu for the next few days and all aching. I had it for a while, but it's now what, 11:15 in UK time, and blue sky, get on with the day.
So
just use that as an example rather than getting reacting to things.
Reacting, yes, and then the one thing that pulls the puppet strings is often the mind. The one thing I'll always come back to is that message that I said right at the beginning. You have a choice. You always have a choice. And one of the things that I've realized that in humanity generally, we've lost that awareness that we have a choice all the time. And of course there are circumstances that we get into where we don't have always the same choices. We have circumstances where we are limited with what we can do, but the way we react to those limitations and the way we react to what's going on is our choice. So even through this whole pandemic situation, there's been people that have thrived on it, even though they may have lost money. We have, but there's been a sense of, I don't know, I'm going to make the best of this no matter what. And that attitude, and that is a choice to take that attitude or not. I think that always comes back to the free will that we have, that isn't necessarily, this has a lot to do, I think, with you, Zita, the culture that you're in. You're in a culture that, again, the oldest daughter is the one expected to look after mother. The oldest son is the one who's supposed to take on the financial burden of the family. These are expectations there, but even they trap you. Religion has done it for thousands of years. You have to keep coming back, like I did really last year when I decided I had a choice, that I didn't have to follow that contract that I made. I had a choice not to. And up to that point, there was some part of me thought I didn't have a choice. And Julie Piatka said something to me which was very telling. She said, just because you can doesn't mean to say you have to do it. Just because you can do something doesn't mean to say you have to do it.
Yeah,
That's true.
true.
I think that's so important, you know, just for us to really reclaim and own our own vibration. There's a lot of talk about, you know, raising your vibration, changing your vibration, all of this kind of thing. And one of the things I've really come to understand is we are here to own our own vibration, you know, to be that lighthouse in the world that only we can be, not, you know, being more, being less, trying to shapeshift into something that we're not. But as Anne said so beautifully, and I know that's, you know, really happening in my life, it's like when we actually own our own vibration, it's a very different thing. You know, it's not that intention of trying to change it, trying to be better, trying to be more, trying to fix ourselves. It's like, what if you own all of it? You know, the dark, the light, the everything. And when you actually even lean into it, I go for a walk now, I just lean into this vibration that is me, that is, you know, coming through me and as me. And as I do that, then of course, what comes through me to do is going to be what I want to do, because I'm inhabiting what is already mine. I just haven't known how to fully inhabit it. I've done it slowly. I'm now doing consciously what I've already been doing quite slowly. But I think that is a really key way to actually, you know, be doing the thing that you're here to do. Because you actually find yourself doing it. Because if you're inhabiting your own vibration, you're not inhabiting anyone else's vibration, and you're not following anybody else's thing. And you know, and it is a very beautiful thing that I should kind of share with you. But how Anne illustrated that so well. It's so life changing to say, well, yeah, of course.
It's the biggest and hardest thing for people to do. It's like I find one of the hardest questions people find to answer is, what do you want to do? What makes you happy?
Yeah.
What? I mean, it's just, and I'm more and more in my healing sessions now, I throw questions back at my clients to get them to ask themselves things that they've taken for granted or not taken for granted, as Catherine just rightly said. You know, are they really doing what they want to do? Are they just following their father's footsteps? Are they following the trend? Are they doing what they think they ought to do? I hate those words, ought and should. I'd love to see them obliterated out of the dictionary, because they're the ones that make you do things that aren't true to yourself. And the truth to yourself is huge.
But of course, it's a very different thing. What do I want to do, and what does the universal spirit want to do through me and as me? And these things are sometimes quite different. And what you have to do is get to a point where they're more in alignment. You're in alignment with what, even if it sounds crazy. You know, I do things. Well, I don't know, standing in a shop and have you got such and such a thing, and the person says no. And you know, I'm told to just stay there, so I just stand there, and I'm not scared of being stupid. I just want to be where I'm meant to be. And if I'm told to stay here, then I'll stand there looking at this person and say, well, have you got X then? Or perhaps you've got something else that's Y that would do the job. And then blow me down, the thing will be there. They've just written it off or whatever. And there will be a reason. I went, you know, for a walk with Marianne, Anna and I, we sometimes go for a walk together. She's up in Scotland, I'm down in Southampton. We go for a walk. And as we're walking, we see, you know, I see a sign, we're talking about something, and I see a sign on the pavement, or we see the bird we're talking about or something. And, you know, life becomes so much closer to you as you go forward. It's more allowing. It's more allowing, and then you find you are doing what you want to do, but not by trying to find what you wanted to do, almost by letting it go, which again, Anne, you said so beautifully. It's by letting it go, you actually wake up and you find yourself, let go of worrying whether you're happy or not. You suddenly find out you are happy.
Oh, absolutely. That's a very good one, because happy, what is happy anyway? What is happy? But it's a language limitation, really, isn't it? It's like, what is it that makes you feel good? There's a lovely one that makes you feel you're laughing inside. I have this thing, if I meditate, I can meditate on what's going on in my heart. And that's something I do to check in from time to time. It's not a bad thing to do. It's just to check in and see what's going on in your heart. And I can see myself there and what state I'm in. And at the moment, I'm doing a slow dance. Sometimes I'm dancing like a obsessive rock chick, but sometimes I'm curled up on the sofa. But that's almost an indicator for me to see what does my true self feeling at the moment. Because I always sense the true self here. Of course, it's higher self, but it's also in the very center of our heart if we're looking at it energetically. And it's not a bad thing to always check. And like Steve, you've got issues with being blocked going forward and stuck. I think it really would be a good exercise for you to look inside and see what the Steve inside you is doing and what it wants to do. It might decide that it just wants to chill out for a bit longer, and that might be just fine. If you reflect on what's there, I think you might find that there's not so much resistance as you think there is in yourself. I think you're just doing what you want to do, really. Really, it might be just fine for you to be taking a little bit more time to decide what your next move is going to be. That's also okay. You know, you could spend a whole lifetime doing that, and that would be okay.
Yeah, that's true, Anne, because it is like that part of me, because what I'm trying to do, not sure that I ought to do, but I can see there is a need that I can be doing what I've gathered over life and lifetimes. And this needs to be out there in the world, but at the same time, part of me is just checking myself out and saying, this is awesome. And I need to be, well, reflect and say, and be practical with myself, but at the same time, self-respect to know what, and because this will, as you know me, it's got to be done, but it'll be done when the time's right. Not for me, just, I need to go out there and save the world.
Yeah, just relax. Just relax.
Exactly.
Just relax. I think that will, the thing you push hardest against is the thing that pushes back hardest. So rather than worry about what you feel that this need to do this, just say, you know what, I'm going to let go of that need at the moment and just chill out, chill. I'm just going to relax into it. And as Catherine said, just surrender to the situation you're in at the moment and just allow it. Allow yourself to be stew in your natural state at the moment, and just don't try pushing it so much, because I think the more you push at it, the more it will push back, and then it becomes a bigger issue.
Well, it does. I was over-consumed, and it becomes, and then it's a lot of, I've got to try and get through a lot of decluttering. Whereas if we, as Catherine said, go for a walk in nature, I can just look at the blue sky and just chill out. So it's that, and just be going into a good space, metaphorically speaking, and just allow, and then things, rather than
But do that, Steve. Do it. It's got to be done. You've got to do
Oh, definitely got to be, it
do
will
the
be
chill.
done.
No, the bit that's got to be done is the chilling and the surrendering,
Well, that's
rather
it.
than the must-do bit. Yeah.
Otherwise, there'll be no good to other people if I'm all over the place.
What's
So
different?
yeah, but
We
it's that bit.
we need you around, but we need you chilled.
Well, that's it, and the knowledge will go out there, but it will be done when the
Fine.
time,
All right, time.
all in good time.
All in good
Yeah.
time. All
And
in.
sometimes there's missing pieces as well that need to come in. Last year,
Yeah.
you know, I had 5 months of deep inner work. You know, times I was thinking, oh, I wish I was doing more work with clients, and I wish I was doing more stuff and everything else. But the work that I'm doing now this year absolutely could not have happened if those missing pieces hadn't come in, because I'm now working with old souls who are empaths and highly sensitive, and I kind of knew I got as far as that being about them moving into them seeing it as a superpower, because the world needs to be more sensitive. But I hadn't got the piece that actually it's sensitivity that the world needs. It's that the people have become desensitized, and we've always put down the sensitive people because they're weak and feeble and feeling all this stuff. But it's because the rest of the world, they need to be empowered, because the rest of the world, if there was 1 degree more sensitivity in the world, there wouldn't be the wars. There wouldn't, because people would be aware of the actions that they're taking to the planet and to other people. So us sensitive people need to be empowered, because we can help to change the world. Now, I hadn't got the piece about changing the world. It was only through deep inner work and letting go of the need to do all the other stuff, Steve, that missing piece came in. And once it came in, suddenly everything could come together. But without the missing piece, that there was this world mission part, it wasn't complete.
I get that entirely, and I think that sometimes we take that whole. In fact, I think everybody is having an impact on the world. You're consciously doing it now. I think that we
I agree with that. Yeah.
I've had healing sessions where I've had somebody breaking a pattern. Steve was talking about patterns, and they're often where they're in an extreme state where they're making a big shift in terms of how they see themselves and what they're, as I say, what boundaries they're going to put up and what they are going to allow, and what they have decided is their choice, their absolute choice, instead of feeling the puppet, as you mentioned earlier about the puppet. When someone's made that decision, something quite magnificent can happen. And I've had experiences where people have said, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm not going to accept this anymore, and this isn't going to happen to me anymore. And I'm setting myself free from it now, right now, and feel this huge shift. And then I get a message saying how many people, other souls, have been that person making that decision, and that is awesome, and it's very exciting, and it's obviously going on all the time. It's just that I don't always hear it. But it's enough to know that when we make a decision that we're going to claim something of ourselves, or we're going to allow, or we're going to set ourselves free, or we're going to change our boundaries, or we're going to just love ourselves a bit more, put more consideration into how we treat ourselves, like you have, Azita. All those different things that we do are so beautiful, and they're also so impactful through our connection to everybody else who's in the same state. So it's like every resonance that we are. I mean, if I see the world and all the souls, there's like how many million resonances, but there's a lot where people are on the similar resonance. And when one of those moves up a notch with their consciousness, allowing more light in, so all those others on that resonance also shift up. I mean, if I see it, it's almost like a beautiful prism, and this constant. That's why whether we're just going shopping, whether you're going for your walk, you're affecting others all the time, because of your resonance. So when you open your heart and think, oh, and like Steve says, oh, the sun's shining, the blue sky, up goes your energy, then everybody on your resonance goes up as well.
It's interesting when you say that, Anne, because I think once you open up yourself, you also get pulled into situations and people where you're really needed, and you're like you unlock, or you're the last piece of the puzzle that everyone needs. And I found myself in that situation twice, last year and this year. Yeah. When they said that you're the right energy that we have been looking for. We've been looking for someone for so long, and you're it.
Fabulous. That's the real felicity, isn't it? All the jigsaw pieces come together.
Yeah. So it's about. So I think once you let go, and just want something that feels really good, then you find yourself being put into that perfect situation where this is what you're supposed to do, and you will be able to do it well and serve other people as well.
And that's exactly what happened to Catherine then with her moment of realization. It all works very well when we allow it to work. If I think when the problems come, I think we're our biggest problem, our own problem. And I would think now, whenever you think about healing, I mean, I bring in spiritual energy and I channel energy and I lift people's energy through that. But the rest of it is getting people to be self-aware. I mean, that's almost more important for them to see what's going on in their own lives. That's a gift, isn't it, really, if you think of it? If someone points out something to me and says, what you should be thinking about is this right for you, or is that what? When I start to ask myself, I think, oh, yeah, that's good. That's the gift, isn't it, as well, to ask the right question, really, to be asked the right question. So, how's your business going, Azita?
It's going well. Remember the contract that I told you about? I had 3 failed attempts, but I was actually waiting for another one, which was 3 times the amount. So it's about to close, I think, hopefully in a few days, sometime early next week. Yeah.
Well done. Well done. We've been doing some experiments with intention, and Zita and Steve have got another group going. I don't know whether Stephanie's still in your group, but
yes, she is. Okay. Yeah. Our next meeting is tomorrow.
Oh, good. Well, good luck for that. I've been running for 2 years. Started off, I can't remember the name of the lady who wrote the book, Power of 8. I don't know whether you've heard of it.
Lynn McTaggart.
Lynn McTaggart, of course. And I thought, yes, she gave a talk, I think, a Conscious Cafe talk. That's how I got to hear of her. And I read the book, and the aspects of it, like everything, I thought, well, that's good, and that's not really for me. But I set up 2 groups of people, and we decided to use the power of intention to help each other as well. What you do is you literally put your intentions out there, and the others focus on you for a period of time to help you manifest them. But one of the things I've come to the conclusion that is absolutely just as important to have the intention list is to also have the action list. That's that self-responsibility thing, really, I think. It's no good just wishing for something. You've just got to do something yourself about it. And as soon as you start to engage and put your energy, attention onto something, and do something, then the wheels move. Otherwise, I'm not really such a believer in it, but this is just, the universe will hear my wish and will rush in. I think the fact that you did an intention with the business, and then you put the action in to find the people and pull it all together, That's why it works.
We have to do the work. We have to do the hard work
Maybe I have to do
as
the-
well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's the
I
thing
don't know what
about the,
anybody else feels about that, but you have to do the work. Yeah.
yeah, we have to do the work, and it's like the universe. We have to meet it. We have to do the action to meet it, to make, it's not going to fall in our laps. We have to go out into the world. If we want to be the change of the world, we have to be out there in the world. But at the same time, this is a bit about working, not intellectually, but intelligently through our mind, plan, and everything. The heart's mind blend together, as you know, Anne, and then we're more balanced, and then we're in harmony, and things will happen.
Things will
That's
happen.
the awesome intelligence. It's going on all the time.
And you see, I think if we were in pure spirit, we would be able to just think it and it would happen, because that is a power of spirit. We have that power, but we also are human, and in our humanness, we're in a world of action and material things. So we need to respond to that as well. That's, I think, something that happens to people who go on a spiritual path. Sometimes it's they're reliant on spirit all the time, but of course it's a 50-50 deal when we're down here. We've got to be human as well, and we use the humanness of ourselves as in conjunction with our spiritual energy that makes it all work for us and for other people. And the great experiment that we're going through, whatever we're here to do, I think some do think sometimes someone is somewhere thinking, this isn't going too badly, but oh dear, I wonder when they're going to wake up to this, that, or the other thing. I just wonder if, I mean, the fact that we came down here unconscious is part of the joke, I think. But anyway.
But there again, if we did know a lot of things, we would get in the way again.
Probably would, Dave. You're right.
So maybe that's why we got the amnesia.
Yeah, I'm sure there's it's all part of the plan. It's definitely part of the plan. I just think it's a bit of a joke sometimes.
Can I say something? Can you hear me?
Yes, love you too.
I'm sorry I've been quiet. I'm not used to talking to pictures on Zoom. I find it quite. I'm used to being, with people live, so I find it quite difficult to break in and say something because I'm listening to what you're saying, and then my mind thinks of something else, and then I'm thinking. I've thought of so many things from what you've been saying, Anne, and everybody, different layers, and so on. But just to go to what you were saying just now about the setting out your intention to do something and putting yourself into action. Anne talks a lot about in her healing and about listening to your higher self. And I think if you're very much in touch with your higher self, then actually you know everything. You can feel what's right. You can feel whether it's right to go to the shop that day to find something. For example, just take a very sort of basic thing. Or you can feel when it's the right time to take your car out to go up the road. You can feel when it's not the right time. If you're really in touch. And I think, I think it's true that we actually do know everything. If we do know everything if you really think about it. But we can't always access it consciously. And I do think that if we really are in touch, then things happen naturally. We don't have to force anything, it just sort of flows.
I think
I've thought about the last thing you were saying, but there's been so much you've been talking about, about looking after mothers and
a big broad subject.
I've been through all that too, but one of the big things for me of looking after mum was love. I really wanted to be there with her, and whether there was an aspect which was in the back of it, I did have quite a strict upbringing. I was quite controlled in a way. Maybe an aspect of that was there, and her saying to her she never wanted to be put in her home, only to her home. And actually, despite her saying all that, I really wanted to be with her, and it was a privilege. actually. It was lovely to be with her in her last years. I really,
That's
I
beautiful.
looked forward to it. I really loved it, you know, and so I just wanted to contribute that really.
Well, I think that's hugely valid, and I have this tendency sometimes when I'm looking at situations, just looking at the negatives, because that's the bit I've come in to deal with. But you're absolutely right. The most important thing is if you can have the love, and if you can, then it is a. I mean, lots of people I know who've been with their parents through the last months and seeing them move on, so always say what a privilege it's been to be with them, to help them, and the love does it. The love's sometimes the love gets distorted when other energies have moved in, and we're always looking for the love, so we keep looking for the love. Somebody once said, why do you come to earth? And I think the only thing I can think we've ever come for is to find the love within ourselves and in others. I mean, if we can find the love, well, I think that's it. Job done, really.
I'm off then. I'm off.
Hit the box. Bye.
So I just wanted to add something about the mother-daughter thing, because this week I was really honoured to do a call with my daughter about mothers and daughters. It was, and we shared for about an hour. We did something on an app called Clubhouse. I don't know if any of you have heard of it. But we it's like a podcast, but it's interactive. We shared it, and then people can come up and ask questions. It's all audio. It's not visual at all. And it was so powerful, because as other people were talking about mother-daughter stuff, and I was talking about my relationship with my mother. It's been very, very difficult and complicated. You know, and then just to say how I've shifted that around, and to be talking to my daughter as well about some of the steps she didn't know I'd taken in order to give her a completely different experience. So she was listening to other people having problems with their mother. All she could say was, I'm really sorry that you've had the experience, but she just hadn't had any of that. And I just felt so honoured that you know, and the power of doing this work in an ongoing way means, you know, and being so committed to it means that the future generations just don't have that pain. They don't have to have that suffering and those difficulties. I'm not saying it's totally 100%, of course it isn't, but in all the important ways, it's completely different. And actually, the people who were there thought it was wonderful to have they were very inspired. They found it very heartwarming to know that this is possible. So that was very, very special. And she's now coming into this work, and you know, she's just running she's 31. She's just run her first online course for women, and she's setting up a subscription site. So she's really coming into this work, but coming into this work without so probably 90% of the heaviness and the density and the dynamics that I've worked through. So yeah, there is hope, and there is very, you know, it's very exciting to be able to stop and share sometimes how far you've come.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And of course, we don't know how much we're impacting the next generation all the time, do we? But they're impacting us as well. As you say, sometimes they're simpler approach and a different approach, because their souls are different, and their souls are coming in with different experiences, and they're coming because the time is right for them to come. So and they're prepared for what's here. So it's interesting. We can learn from each other, the young people as well. I mean, I definitely learn from them as far as social media is concerned. There's all sorts of technicalities I love to use. I just want to ask anybody here, anybody very technical, is it possible to put the transcription thing on? You know, you can have along the bottom when you're recording, you can have the words that are being translated into English as you write, as you speak. Does anybody know how to do that? Or does it have to be set up before?
For Zoom, you mean?
Yeah, does that have to be set before we start the Zoom?
Do you mean for Zoom, while you're having a Zoom call?
Yeah, there's a way of setting it up so that everything that's being said is recorded with the recording along the bottom. No, no, I'll have to find out about it because Toshio,
I've heard someone,
Toshio
I've heard some
doesn't.
saying, I don't know if it's possible on Zoom, but it's possible after you record yourself, depending on the app you're using, to activate that option of a subtitle sort of
Yes,
thing appearing
yeah.
at the bottom.
Well, I
Yeah,
was.
but I don't know if it's in Zoom or in an app that you're recording yourself with.
It is
Okay.
confusing, Tim, because the lady who I was being interviewed by, the one I'm going to introduce you to, Sharon, had it set up that way, and she says it's useful when she goes back. I don't know why it would be, but she finds it useful to have it. But I'm wondering if I can use it in some way. It'd be great if we could have an instant translation going on.
Mm.
I noticed now that you can translate all the, even on Word and all these things are so much easier to translate now. I deal with a German lady and we do it all through translation. Toshio who's come in, doesn't speak English, and I'm just wondered if anybody knew anything clever we could do that will translate what we're saying into Japanese for him. But that's the next step. So, is there anything? I mean, the discussion today is been fantastic, and I'm really thrilled that everybody's taking parts. And I just wonder if anybody got any questions about healing that they want to us to address. Does either of you got any come up? Mariana, have you? Right.
Just a quick one. Although in a way, Catherine already helped me with the answer, and she guided me towards your videos, and I've seen some of them about doing protection when you experience a psychic attack. I've seen and I've done with you one of your videos yesterday, and I just wanted to tell you it helped a lot. And I saw this last night in a dream how I got moved from that location to another one, and how all the support team of archangels and angels came in and took me to a different location. So it was beautiful to experience the resolution of that, because I was very disturbed for a few days trying to identify the source and trying to figure out what to do next. But in a way, everything kind of all fell into place, and the right people appeared, the right ways to do it appeared. So yeah, I wanted to share my experience with Catherine and with your video and this meeting this morning. And
yeah. That's wonderful. Thank you, Marianne. That's great. Lovely to have those confirming feedback. Whatever I do, most of what I do. I mean, obviously, some things I pick up from other people, but most of it comes through spirit. It's an act of faith for them to use it and pass on. The one way that I'm using a lot now when I do healing is using a golden star tetrahedron, which is 2 golden pyramids, which are 3-dimensional. One's one way, one's the other, and that creates like a 6-pointed star, 3-dimensional 6-pointed star. I just invoke that golden star tetrahedron around. So if I'm doing it for you now, I'd say I call in the golden star tetrahedron around you right now, right now, right now. And I spin it to create a light body. And this light body transmutes all thought energy that isn't of the light. And transmuting it now, right now, right now, transmuting it into knowledge and light right now. And I call your thoughts from wherever they've been on the past, bringing them back and bringing them through the golden light. Any worries that you're having at the moment, bringing them through the golden light. Worries of the future, bringing it through the golden light. Transforming those energies into wisdom and light now, right now, right now. Bringing your energy into perfect alignment right now. And you can also call in all the negative thoughts attached to your aura and bring those other people's negative thoughts about you, bringing that through the golden light, purifying and cleansing and sending to the light. Somebody needed that. Oh, this is the last end of that toxic attack on you, Mariana. Just the leftovers of that, I think, I find. Everybody's had some negative thoughts about them that have just stick. And that light now has transformed them all. Well done. Still moving. Still shifting. Well done. Well done. While we're at it, let's just remove all the heavy energies on our shoulders, our own responsibilities or other people's responsibilities, which are even heavier, which just shift them off, and all the hooks that people have put into us, just shift them all off now and flick it into the bowl of light. All those supposed responsibilities we think we have of others, which of course we can never take somebody else on our shoulders, because we cannot live their life for them, make their choices for them. We try to do it because we're loving and caring, and sometimes we get carried away. Yeah, lovely. Yeah. Oh, that's lovely. Good. Yeah, the golden star tetrahedron, Mariana. I think it will work well for you.
And I have a question. Sorry. I have a question. I often have Zoom meetings with people, and these are often they're not very nice to each other, and then they're a bunch of very demanding people. So how do I set the tone so that it becomes a very peaceful and a more relaxed sort of environment? Everyone's coming in from different locations and different time zones.
That's a good point, isn't it? Before I start a session, or when I start a session, I bring in the blue flame of Archangel Michael. Before the Zoom even starts, because you can't do it in front of Chinese negotiators, can you?
Yes, no.
That's price. Oh yeah. So
Chinese and Indians.
Yeah. To my problem. Right. So all that energy, which we don't want.
Yeah.
Before you start, call in the blue flame of Archangel Michael for yourself. Call in the blue flame on your computer, the internet connection to everyone's computer, and put all of them in the blue flame, and see the blue flame around the people who are coming in. And then I would send the peace and harmony symbol energy into the computer, into the Zoom, and say what you're doing, because you're invoking something. I invoke peace and harmony into this Zoom session from this moment, right now, right now, right now, through to the conclusion. And I mean, as you say it, I mean, there's a sort of a vision of energy shifts through. So you're taking control of the energy. You are saying this is how this energy is going to be, and you can always say it in the name of the light, because what you're doing it is for the benefit of all. To bring it into a peaceful state is an act of love and an act of light. So you can use that symbol, which is like in the name of the light, I bring that in now, right now. So it's sort of, you're speaking for the light. And we have been given dominion as part of our journey on earth. We have been given the power to speak in that authoritative way, in the name of light, in the name of love. In the old days, it would have been using God's words, but I don't think that sits so well these days. I think it's best to use in the name of the light. And same thing, of course. And you're using that gift that we have, like free choice is another one, to determine the energy. And I do that in healing too. It's determine and take authority of the level of energies and the energy that's being created. So you're fully responsible there for the participation in that debate, let's call it that, on Zoom. Yeah. Just see how that works out. Be interesting to see how you manage that. I think you can do it. You've got the power there. The power. The power of love. Someone should write a song about that.
Can I say something about Zoom meetings?
Yes.
I sometimes have to attend meetings Zoom with colleagues, and there's a lot of not etiquette, Zoom etiquette on it. You know, people, you're talking and then somebody will barge in with something that they're not really listening to you at all. They're much more concerned for other people to hear what they want to say, blah, blah, blah. And the other thing I find very, very hard, perhaps you're used to it, is when suddenly your computer screen is taken over by theirs, and you've got to watch them go through this document terribly quickly. So you're having to follow what they're doing, but of course you can never follow it the same way as they are when they're leading you. I find this very difficult. Does anyone else have this problem? I mean,
I don't have any business meetings. Azida would have that problem. Maybe she can help that.
They don't necessarily ask you permission. Say, I'm going to share the screen with you. Suddenly your screen is there. And once this happened, I had a stress headache 2 hours afterwards, you know. So you're suggesting that blessing the meeting before would help.
Yes, again,
Yeah.
you take responsibility for bringing the light into that meeting, because I don't suppose that if the other people are going to be doing that.
No. That's a
Because
really good
there was one time where I called the energy of Archangel Michael for myself, and that helped a lot, because then I wouldn't be so anxious about the outcome and what people would say and all that. But I didn't think of sending it out to the rest of the other people joining the Zoom call. So I think the next one, I think I'll try to do that. I did what I did last 2 days was actually I wrote down everyone that's involved in the negotiation, all their names, and then send the healing symbol onto that, as well as put the peace and harmony and send the energies of the peace and harmony symbol on that piece of paper. So that seems to help a bit, yeah.
That would be good. These are the symbols that come to mind that would be most effective. This is the stress release. So if you do that symbol and put that symbol through the computer systems and through the whole meeting, you know, the whole experience, so that one would be good. At stress release, so that make it less stressful. I think, Bernadette, that would be good for you with yours. Use that symbol on the computer before the meeting starts. Now, in a negotiation, you want balance. You want everybody to go away with feeling that they've got what they want, or are happy, let's put it that way. So any good negotiation ends with balance, which so I would suggest that symbol would be quite useful. And also the balance of the ability to share your thoughts and views as well. So you want balance, and you also want peace and harmony, which I think would be useful too. This stops the conflict. As far as stopping people, as far as people whacking up shared screens without giving you any opportunity to know that it's coming, like someone threw a balance sheet in front of me, give me the willies, because I'm not very good with balance sheets. I can appreciate how it might feel. So I would suggest that who leads the meeting? Is there somebody else leading the meeting? In which case you put on your chat box, would appreciate anybody who's going to share just to give a little bit of warning first. Put your voice out to say what you want.
Yeah.
Or you can set the agenda before the meeting so that everyone who wants to share anything, they would actually tell you beforehand before the meeting starts, and that will help. So you don't have any surprises during the meeting.
Yeah.
I think that's good too, because then you are actually giving your voice as a kind of authority, so they'll respect you more.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
You're also respecting your own sensitivity, which is really important as a role modeling for other people. You know, to say, actually, we can't all just sit here and take whatever gets thrown at us. You know, so it affects some of us, just like it might affect somebody who has a physical disability or a mental disability. You know, we all have these sensitivities which we've learned to shut down, not talk about, but the more we can talk about them and own them, then it opens doors for someone else to say, actually, yes, I've got that problem, or yes, I think it's a bit loud, or your voice is a bit hard, or you know, this is a bit too much information or something. And we don't just have to consume, as Anne was saying, you know, we can influence by acknowledging our sensitivity, but it's obviously for a lot of us we've been so shamed for it. So we shut up. But by owning it and sharing it, we're actually helping everybody own and share their sensitivity, however strange they are, because we all have sensitivities, and we've all been sort of shamed for them in various ways. But if we start owning them and honouring them, that does shift the world. So it may seem a simple thing to you, Bernadette, but it actually may open the door for someone else to say something like, yeah, I got a headache. Even saying I got a headache last time, powerful information for the person running the thing. Wow, so I probably haven't even thought about that for somebody got a really bad headache as a consequence of that. You know what I mean? But we don't want to upset people. We want to please them. We don't want to say anything. We feel ashamed of our sensitivity, so we shut up. But the more we own it and the more we say it, the more we're actually helping open the door for other people. So that's what I'd like to share with you.
I think that's absolutely right. Absolutely right. And one thing you've got, there's two problems with Zoom that I find. Well, one problem particularly, and that is people getting up and making themselves a cup of coffee in the middle of it. Well, you wouldn't do that in the middle of a meeting and when you're in a room together. Well, maybe you would, but sometimes it's a bit annoying, but it's not that desperate. But the plus point is that you do have this opportunity with the chat box to send a little message out saying, excuse me, I'd like to speak, or put your hand up or something. But add that.
But you know what happens, Anne? They're so busy talking, they don't look at the chat box.
Oh.
You gesticulate, then you have to sort of gesticulate, you know, like this one, you know.
I'll get their attention. Yeah.
Just put your hand, sit there with your hand up until somebody notices.
Yeah.
There's also a reaction option at the bottom of your Zoom right now, and if you click that reaction, it raises the hand, a yellow hand in there that you could just stick in their eyes.
I just done it.
Well, funny, you're all doing the same one. Well,
surprise, surprise.
Surprise, yes. What
I didn't know that. Thank you, Mariana. That's great.
I've never used that. Yeah, thanks, Marina.
that was yeah. When they start to get on
Raise hand. What happens with that? Oh, that's a hand raise. Look at that, and I go to the top
Yeah.
because I've raised my hand. Look at that. There you
Yeah.
go, Bernadette. There's your answer.
Yes, I can see that on mine. But because I'm the host, I don't get to raise my hand. I just barge in.
But can you see other people have raised their hands though?
I can, yes. I think yes. That's a really good idea. I think perhaps what you should suggest, Bernadette and Azina, is you say right at the beginning. I think we should make use of the reactions and use that to raise a hand.
Yeah, I'd like to do it by surprise, actually.
I like this one.
Can I ask a question, Anne? I'd like to ask a question about dogs. I've got a friend who, and I said I would ask you this question today. I've got a friend who rescued a dog from a puppy farm who was very traumatized, and was constantly, and so he's, you know, although they've done a lot of work, sort of what most people do, sort of desensitize him in certain situations, everything. I said to him, well, wouldn't it be fabulous if, like, you can release trauma from humans, you know, can you actually, do you know anyone who actually, the question really is, do you know anyone who specializes, not just in animal communication or desensitization programs, but like you do healing work for humans, you know, who can actually release it from the nervous system, from the, you know, from the past experience at the root cause, so that they can actually be free? I mean, is that a thing that you've seen happen? Is it possible? Is there someone who does it? Because obviously it's no good asking the dog isn't aware of it. It happened, it was unconsciously happened to it. So it needs to happen at the unconscious level. Does that make any sense?
It does make sense. There's Lucy who does this work mainly on horses, but Lucy probably can do it. She's one of our group. She's doing the healing course as well.
So it's very specifically early, you know, early trauma release on the energy level, type of thing. I was really hoping that I might be able to find.
There was somebody in Southampton years ago that used to be an animal healer that was very good for this sort of thing. You know, I don't.
Emma, do this.
Have you thought of doing it yourself? Sorry, Bernadette.
Doesn't Emma do it? The house person. Emma
Loveheart might do it. Yes. She does everything from a distance, so and she does it through dowsing. She does do past life and all that sort of thing and trauma. I don't see why she wouldn't be able to do it for a dog.
What's her name?
Emma Loveheart.
Okay.
Quite good.
Beautiful surname.
Yeah, Emma Loveheart. And Emma's on our Conscious Cafe group. She's also in one of the members.
I'll find her.
If you Google Emma Loveheart, you'll find her, because she's a home healer, I think she calls herself at the moment. She's definitely on Facebook. She's on my Facebook. She's on Instagram a lot. And the other person is Lucy, who's an animal healer. But you know, Catherine, have you thought of doing it yourself?
Of course I have, but you know, I'm trying to do what really brings my heart to life.
Oh, fair enough.
You see what I mean? Oh, that was a good answer, wasn't it?
You know, such a good cop-hat.
I was going to give it back to you, give it right back to you. Just because I can do it, Anne. Just because I could do it. You know?
Fair enough. If your friends have got dogs, stuff there, that's okay. I put it in the car, but that's all I say. Yeah, no fun.
I might end up doing it if I can't find it. But I looked on Google for so long, and there was, it's interesting, there was just nobody specialising in trauma release. It was all desensitization program, symptom management. And I found that really, really interesting. Communicating with animals, healing them, but not actually specifically releasing the energy of trauma.
Well, it's a spiritual energy work, and there's not many people put their hand up to doing it. They do it, but they hide it through a therapy.
Oh, okay.
It's because of the past and a resistance to people to the word spiritual in the past.
What's Lucy's surname?
Lucy.
Loveheart.
No, that was Emma Loveheart.
Oh, sorry.
It's Lucy.
Catherine, I'm going to send you a link as well for a
Okay.
lady here up in Aberdeen. Her name is Gillian Watt. She does work with horses, with EFT and other healing processes. But she has dogs, so I'm imagining she works with her dog. Is a rescue dog. She worked with it as well. If that would help.
Yep. Thank you.
Lucy Yeoman's her name is.
Her name?
Lucy Yeoman.
Yeoman.
Ioeman. Yeah, again, you can Google her because she's got a website.
Okay, thank you.
She's good for animals. And there was a lady in Southampton, Sally, used to specialise, but I'm thinking about 15 years ago, so she might have moved. So she's moved on. I don't mean to say she's like moved on that way, but she might be doing something else now.
That's fine. Don't worry. That's enough. That's fine. Thank you.
I've got a dog that's a bit like that. I've got a rescue dog. I mean, getting on to the subject of dogs, I'm a bit worried about next year when all those people who've got these dogs because they want a little friend with them in lockdown, when they all decide they're going back to Spain for their holidays and so on, what's going to happen?
It's happening already. It's happening already. I've heard, in the rescue centres and things. Yeah.
I've heard it too.
So I mustn't worry about that. Just trust that everything will be okay for the dogs. So, is there anything else, or shall we? Have we got anything else you want to ask or share?
I just wanted to just chip in quickly, and just when Azida was mentioning the meetings and everything, I've used Archangel Raguel quite a lot for just soothing relationships. So before I go into a room, and if I know there's going to be a bit of friction, and that has really worked, calling him in. Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Or her, whichever you use.
Thanks for that.
You're welcome.
Yeah, the healer. Isn't that the Archangel healer? Yeah.
Raguel, yeah.
Raguel.
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 That's different to Raphael. Yes, thank you.
Yes.
Yes, we haven't got our expert on angels anymore, have we? She's become a born-again Christian.
Yes, it is.
Nice
Yeah.
and Steve.
I've got something to share. I don't know. Well, it might be nothing, but I just found it interesting. Do you know, the other week we were doing, you had an evening with Sasha Radley.
Sasha, yeah.
She's gave us a little exercise to use our non-dominant hand to write something down on a piece of paper. Well, I didn't, because I'm not really good at writing things. So what I did, I drew something on my left hand, because I'm right-handed, and I just drew a heart, and with loads of like just see if it's expanding or something. And what happens? My internet just went. It stopped, and I went up and it was flashing instead of blue. It was flashing orange, green. I thought, oh, what's going on? So I left it for about a minute or so, and then when it was finished, when Shasta finished, and we came back into talking about things, the internet came back on again. I don't know if this is a coincidence because it was about 8 o'clock at night when everyone's using a lot of electricity and that. But I just thought I have these sort of things happen from time to time. As you know, Anne, I've been with you sometimes. You're in a, you know, some meeting somewhere, and all of a sudden the lights start flickering.
Yeah, we've had a
Yeah,
lot of that,
yeah.
haven't we? Yeah.
And I
That's
just,
what
I mean, I'm.
actually. Are
Well,
your
that's it,
lights
Anne.
flickering now?
Well, it's just I just thought because I don't. There's not many people can share this
No, of
with,
course.
and so a lot of times I just keep it to myself. But I just thought I'd just share it. I
Yeah.
mean, it might just have been the internet's gone. It just had to go at the same time, which is a coincidence.
Yeah, but Steve,
And
the spirit finds it very easy. People and being entities in spirit find it very easy to access us through electronics. That's one way they can get a message across or show their presence, actually.
yeah,
And so it could well be that, be one of the
could
situations.
be.
I mean, I don't know whether any of you were around when I did the workshop. I mean, that was the most spooky thing that's happened recently. I'm doing a workshop about, it was about curses, clearing curses and things like that. And whether karma or curse, I think it was the subject. It's something I did for the Japanese, and then I did one for us, as it were, in English. And at one point, I asked people to answer some questions. So I stopped, and green writings started to come across the screen on the
Right, I
Zoom.
remember.
You remember that?
Yeah.
And
Yes.
I had you were there, weren't you, Azina? It was really spooky, and I'm thinking, and it was a word. I can't remember what the word was now, but the writing wasn't as if you were writing it with a pen. It was like you were copying the word onto the screen.
Mm.
And a bit of a shaky old hand, but there was definitely there, and it stayed there. It didn't go. So it was a word that was quite relevant to what was happening, but you can't do that. This was a shared screen, and it was a PowerPoint that was up at the time, and it was on that recording afterwards as well, because Tom nearly shrieked when I told him to look for it. I said, well, we were talking about curses and spells and things, so that we were going to be drawing some interest in, and that's when I decided I have to always protect the screens and the internet connections when I do Zoom from now on, just because I didn't want any interference. It wasn't anything particularly malevolent, I don't think. It's just that, you have to trust when you see something. We had to trust our eyes then. I mean, it was pretty obvious, wasn't it, when that writing came up? And I didn't want to frighten everybody. But I thought,
Is that what you did in that instance immediately?
I did. I called in the light, yeah, to clear it.
And round each computer?
And it stopped.
Yes.
I didn't do that then. I realised afterwards that was the best thing to do. I just did it onto my screen. I called in the light and just asked it to go. And but it didn't carry on.
Yeah, it was quite spooky. Yeah.
You were there, weren't you? Yes. We never know what's going to happen next. We're inviting all angels. We're inviting all angels. All right, so shall we? I think there's probably, has anybody got anything else they particularly want to talk about or share? It's been lovely sharing with you today. It's been great. Thank you ever so much for joining me. And yeah, we'll do it again in a month's time. I'm doing one of these every month. And it's open to anybody on the course and anybody who's a member. So lovely to have you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anne.
Ask something beforehand, want to put a topic through, but please feel free to do that. Bless you. Lovely to meet you, Mariana, and I've got your email address, and I will send you Sharon's details.
Thank you so much, Anne. It was lovely to meet you and everyone else on the call. It's been fantastic. I feel happy. So thank you.
Good. Well, that's what we want.
Well done, Bernadette.
Thank you, Anne.
Does anybody speak Japanese? Do you speak Japanese, Bernadette?
Sorry?
Do you speak Japanese?
No, I don't. Do you?
No, just you do. You don't, do you, Azina? Your sister does. Well,
No, I asked my sister.
thank you, Toshio. Thank you for being with us. Bless you. Bye-bye.
Bye, Anne.
Bye.
Bye,
Bye.
everybody. Bye.
Bye, everyone.